welcome everyone for another week of Heroes 2021. So this week we will be discussing about assessments. Let's now call on our new team of facilitators from Union Bank. Go ahead, guys.
All right. Good morning and a pleasant day to our teachers from all over the Philippines, together with our partners from FEMS International, City Savings Bank, UBP Accelerator, EduRescue, and Acad Asia. We welcome you to our learning session for today. So before we dig deeper in our topic for today, let me introduce myself. My name is Arlene Arcilia. You can call me Arlene. I am from the Human Resource Group of Union Bank of the Philippines, and I will be your speaker for today. So just a brief background about myself. I am currently a talent management officer for Union Bank of the Philippines. I graduated with a degree in psychology a few years ago. And after I graduated from college, I immediately ventured to a career in human resources. My choice and option to go into a career in human resources was greatly influenced by my professors and my instructors back in college. That's why I owe to our teachers where I am right now, because I'm actually happy with my career at this point. So last 2018, I was given a privilege to teach public school teachers on the use of different Microsoft learning tools through the Microsoft Education Ambassador Program. So actually, I'm blessed to have that opportunity because that's my way of giving back to our dear teachers. That's why today, I feel really blessed that I have another opportunity to impart my knowledge to our dear teachers, this time with a bigger audience because we have participants, I understand, from different parts of the Philippines. So joining me today are my colleagues from the other business units of Union Bank. Allow me to introduce them to you so they can say hi and welcome you to this learning session. So we have Mr. Neil Bongkayaw from Enterprise Risk Management Division of Union Bank.
Good morning, teachers.
Right. We also have Mr. Efren Dancel from the SME Business Group of Union Bank.
Magandang araw.
Right. And last but not the least, we have Mr. Leo Gisik from our Retail Banking Center.
Good morning, teachers.
All right. So again, good morning to everyone and welcome to our learning session for today. So this team will be with you until Saturday to discuss about measuring learning outcomes. So for those of you who were with us during the last session was all about techniques to engage learners in a virtual setting. So as much as you did last time, we hope you enjoy your session for today as we give you some tips on how to measure learning outcomes in the new normal. So just a few reminders before we begin with the discussion. Your audio is turned off, but we encourage you to share your comments and questions about the topic in the chat box. For questions, we have dedicated a Q&A button. So we will entertain questions after the discussion, but as we go on with the discussion, feel free to enter your questions in the Q&A portion. Now, if you have comments about the discussion, feel free to share it in the chat box. But ensure that your message settings are set to be visible to all panelists. So you'll see it in the chat box before you send your message. Please change it to all panelists and attendees. This way, you'd be able to interact with your co-attendees and us, your panelists. Okay. All right, so to move further, we'd like to know what your expectations are about the session for today. So using your gadget, your laptop, your tablet, or maybe your mobile phone, please access menti.com. We're showing it in the screen right now. Once you've accessed menti.com, please enter the code shown in your screen. So the code is 2417677. So after entering the code, answer the question provided. So you'll see there that we'll be asking you to provide your expectations for this learning session using 1 to 4 words. So I'm hoping that everyone is starting to go to menti.com. All right. Let's just give them a few minutes or a few seconds to access menti.com, right? We'll give you a minute to key in your answers. So my teammate, Sir Leo, will help us with the timer. We can begin the timer now. All right, you have one answer already. Okay,
15 seconds to go.
15 seconds to go. Okay, you can still add your expectations. Okay, so a lot of answers are coming in already. Okay, we still have time, Sir Leo.
Time's up.
Time's up. All right. Okay. So let's see. Let's take a look at your answers. So from your expectations, I'm seeing here that you're expecting to learn to apply measures. So I'm guessing naputol lang siya no kasi limited yung yung text field, but I'm guessing this is to learn to apply measures for measuring your the understanding of your students. A lot also, so there are a lot of comments here about measurements, no? So we'll talk about that later. We'll give you examples and we'll let you experience the assessment tools that you can use to measure your students. I've seen here also comments about the session being full of learnings. So hopefully we'll be able to give you a lot of learnings for today. We hope that we'll be able to make this session engaging as well. So we prepared activities for you. So hopefully that's something that you'll enjoy. All right, so thank you so much. I'm seeing right now that there's still some answers being entered in the form. So actually we gave you a minute to answer the expectation for today, but in the box, I would like you to share your thoughts. No, if you feel like 1 minute is not enough, maybe because we still have activities towards the discussion. So if you feel like we need to give you more time, maybe 1 minute and 30 seconds or maybe 2 minutes, please let us know in the chat box so that we can adjust before we do the next assessment or before we do the next activity. So let us know if 1 minute is enough, if you want to make it 1 minute and 30 seconds, or if you want us to give you more time and extend it to 2 minutes. Okay. All right. So in the chat box also, I'm seeing that there are some comments, no, but these are similar to what's in the Menti, informative and good. Okay, and I think you're okay with 1 minute, no? So we can continue to use that time frame for our next activities. All right. So thank you so much for your participation. I'm very happy to see that a lot of you participated in the activity. We still have a lot of activities in store for you towards the end of the discussion. So just hang in there. And right now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the learning session on measuring learning outcomes. So for today, we'll be focusing our discussion on measuring formative assessments. But on the next days, so in the next session, we will also talk about measuring learning outcomes through summative assessments. And of course, we want to share some tips on how to avoid cheating in an online learning. So that's what's in store for us on Saturday. All right. So let's begin the discussion on formative assessments with a pre-assessment. So our second activity is a pre-assessment about what you know at this point on formative assessments. So showing in your screen right now is a link and the QR code. So using again your gadget, you can type in the link provided. My teammates will also put it in the chat box. And you can also use your mobile phone to scan the QR code, access the pre-assessment, and answer the questions provided. So for the pre-assessment, we have around 3 questions. Later, after you finished answering it, we'll take a look at the answers. So I've seen that Sir Leo was able to put the link in the chat box already. I hope everyone is there. All right. So for this assessment, we'll give you 1 minute to answer. Sir Leo, maybe we can set the timer to 1 minute.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. 15 seconds to go.
15 more seconds to go.
Time's up.
All right. Okay, time's up. Thank you so much for participating. Thank you also, Sir Leo, for measuring the time for this assessment. All right. So I've seen a lot of responses here. So I'm now looking at the responses. Now let's move to the next slide so that we can review and take a look at the answers for the assessment. So this is a quick pre-assessment about formative assessments. So the first question is, the correct answer for that is true. So learning outcomes can be measured using formative assessment. So majority of you actually got the answer correctly. For the second question, the following statements describe a formative assessment except for. The correct answer is option number 3. Formative assessment is used to check overall understanding of a student for a unit or module. So majority of you actually got the correct answer. There are some who got who answered a different option. Some of you answered that the formative assessment is used as a way to check students' current understanding and to check the effectiveness of an instruction. So those are actually definitions of a formative assessment. The third option is the correct answer because that's actually more of the definition for summative assessments. But we'll talk about that during the topic next time. But for the first and the second items in the choices, we will discuss that further in the next parts of this session, right? And then the third one, our correct answer is online quiz. So online quiz is an example of a formative assessment. So we'll talk more about that later as we move to our discussion. All right. So I'm happy that a lot of you participated with the pre-assessment. Actually, right now, there are still answers that are coming in. So it's just okay. Now, okay, so moving on with our discussion. So we've mentioned earlier that learning outcomes can be measured through formative assessments and summative assessments. So what are formative assessments and how is it different from a summative assessment? So the next slide will show us how it is defined. A formative assessment is actually used to measure the current understanding of a student, his progress and construction of knowledge. So it is also a way to check how effective the instruction materials are so that teachers can ensure that the students are acquiring their material correctly along the way as they go on with the instruction. Okay. A formative assessment can be given at any point of the teaching and the learning process. So as a tip, you can maybe conduct 1 to 3 formative assessments in between modules. Okay. On the other hand, a summative assessment, next slide please. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. A summative assessment is meant to check the overall understanding of a student for a unit or a module. So examples of this are exams such as midterms, finals, long tests, even quarterly exams, and group presentation. So this usually requires a longer time frame of syllabus content. But as I've here, we'll focus our discussion for today about formative assessments, and we'll talk more about summative assessments on Friday. So we hope you can join us by Friday again. All right. So to dig deeper about formative assessments, next slide please. Learners are assessed in the classroom through various processes and measures that are appropriate with the curriculum. So these are, or some of these process and measures may be used for both formative and summative assessments. Each one has its own goal, and we have discussed that a little about that earlier. And learners may be also measured individually and collaboratively. So what are individual and collaborative assessments? So to define this further, an individual assessment enables the learner to demonstrate what has been learned or mastered through a range of activities. So an example of it are check-up quizzes, written exercises, performances, and even electronic presentations. A collaborative assessment allows students to support each other's learning. So this one, for collaborative assessments, an example would be discussions. Could be through a form of role-playing and other group activities that will allow students to interact and collaborate with each other. So basically, a lesson or every lesson has three parts. So formative assessments can actually done in different parts of the lesson. So if a formative assessment is done in the different parts of the lesson, it serves its different purpose. So to discuss that further, the parts of the lesson are before the lesson, during the lesson proper, and after the lesson. So if a formative assessment is done before the lesson, it actually informs you about the student's understanding of a lesson or a topic before the direct instruction. So it helps you understand where the students are in terms of their current understanding or conceptual understanding and application. So formative assessments done before the lesson provides you a basis for making instructional decisions, such as moving on to a new lesson or clarifying a prerequisite understanding. Earlier, we've conducted a pre-assessment before we started the discussion on formative assessment. So that one actually provided me with an overview on what to focus on with this discussion. Also, we did an expectation setting using menti.com. So that's another way of measuring or formative assessments before the lesson. If you notice, I ask you if the 1 minute time frame that we gave you is enough to conduct the activity, because towards the middle and the end of this discussion, we'll have more activities. So that one, your feedback from that question of mine earlier is something that we will use to adjust to conduct activities as we move on with our discussion for today. Right. So moving on, if a formative assessment is done during the lesson proper, let's go back to the next slide, please. Okay, so it informs you about the progress of the students in relation to the development of their learning competencies. So a formative assessment done during the lesson helps you determine whether your instructional strategies are effective. So later on, I'll give you more examples of formative assessments that can be done during the lesson proper. The formative assessments done during the lesson proper also allows you to make a comparison of the formative of the results of the formative assessment done before the lesson to see if there are or if there is a progress with your students' understanding on the subject matter. Okay. And then lastly, a formative assessment can also be done after the lesson. So a formative assessment done after the lesson is meant to assess whether the learning objectives were achieved. So it allows you to evaluate the effectiveness of your instruction. And this will also give you an idea on what to provide your students, whether they need more assistance or enrichment or as to what type of teaching strategies you can implement in your next lesson. Okay, so the next slide, we're showing you examples of assessment methods that you can implement before, during, and after the lesson. So before the lesson, samples are agree, disagree activities, could be through a form of a game. You can do interviews, you can do inventories, open-ended. You can also give open-ended questions and even practice exercises. During the lesson and after the lesson, you'll see here that most of the examples or most of the assessment methods are the same. So we have multimedia presentations, observations, formative performance tasks, quizzes, recitations, simulation activities. And the only difference is that if it's done after the lesson, you can also provide them with a written work. So a written work kasi would require longer time for the students to accomplish. That's why it would be best if you do it after the lesson. Okay. All right. So now that we have defined what a formative assessment is, we will provide you and give you examples of formative assessments that you could use in an online instruction. So for the purpose of this discussion, we are presenting 7 examples of online formative assessments. Okay. Starting off with online quizzes. Next slide, please. All right. So online quizzes are ideal for measuring learning results across a wide audience. So it can be given prior to start of a lesson or can be a knowledge check test after a module to reinforce concepts taught in the lesson. So again, earlier you noticed that we conducted a pre-assessment in the form of an online quiz created via MS Forms. So that is an example of an online quiz that is conducted before the lesson. So we're happy that you're able to experience that one. Next, we have open-ended or essay questions. This is used to prompt learners to explore their thoughts and feelings and opinions on a specific topic while testing their overall comprehension about it. It would require a longer time for students to think, organize, and compose their answers, but this type of activity actually stimulates their thought process. So an example of this is to create an online essay using Microsoft Forms. You can share the link to your students and ask them to answer the question provided. So the next slide is a screenshot of an essay or open-ended questions provided via Microsoft Forms. What's good about the use of online tools like Microsoft Forms is that you can still set a deadline for it. When you can do it through the settings of the Microsoft Forms or maybe Google Forms or even menti.com. You can set a deadline for them to submit their responses. That way, you'd still be able to ensure that the students are engaged in terms of answering that assignment or that particular activity. Okay. So the next one is picture analysis. So you can also use picture analysis in your online learning sessions. So picture analysis actually encourages logical thinking and reasoning of the students. So an example of this is to incorporate images related to your topic and ask your students to provide their insights about it. So for example, you're in a live class like this, you can show them the images and then ask them to input in the comment section their insights about the image. So of course, we want you to experience how this can be done. So we prepared a simple activity for you. The next slide will show you the instructions for our next activity. So for this one, we'll utilize the chat box. So be ready and make sure that your chat box or your message settings is set to be visible to all panelists and attendees so that we can see your answers. So for the next activity, we'll be showing you logos of various online learning tools. So what you need to do is to guess the name of each logo and type in your answers in the chat box or comment section. Okay. So I'm sure you're ready. We can move on to the next slide and see the logos, right? So we have there 3 logos. You can start typing in your answers in the chat box, and we'll give you a minute to answer this. You can actually put a number and then your answer, no? So you can, for example, 1, and then you input your Leo. Please set the timer to 1 minute now. Hmm.
30 seconds to go.
30 seconds to go.
5 seconds.
5 more seconds.
Time's up.
Okay, time's up. Okay, thank you for that, Sir Leo. All right. So I see a lot of responses in the chat box, but let's take a look at it. All right. So majority of you answered Forms. So actually, that's our first logo. So that's Microsoft Forms. So you got it correctly. And then our second logo is Microsoft Teams. So a lot of you also answered that. So that's correct. And then the third logo is Kahoot. Okay. So there, thank you so much for answering our picture analysis. So I'm happy to see that most of you participated and most of you got the correct answer. So Microsoft Forms can be used to conduct online quizzes, even essays and even online polls. Microsoft Teams can be used in conducting classes or seminars similar to this. And then Kahoot can be used to conduct games. So later on, we'll tell you more about Kahoot. Right. So we can move on now to the next part of the slides. All right. Okay, so we also have another sample, no, of formative assessments online is to conduct online polls. So this actually allows you to capture feedback directly from your audience. This is engaging because it's just quick to complete, and the learners are encouraged to share their opinions. So it can be used to focus your learners' attention to something important. Say, for example, you want to emphasize a very important part of your topic or your lesson. You can break the ice by using an online poll. Or if, for example, your session, you see that the class tends to be dragging already, you can wake up the class by conducting an online poll. So an example is to create an online form or online poll using Microsoft Forms to give you that experience on how you can apply online polls in your online instruction. We would like you to answer a quick online poll that we have created. So the QR code is again shared in the screen. We'll also share the link in the chat box for your easy access. Okay. So I hope you start accessing the form or tool now. So I can see that
Timer starts now.
right. So 1 minute also to accomplish the poll. Mhm.
30 seconds to go. Time's up.
Okay, time's up. Thank you, Sir Leo, for managing the timer again. All right. So now I'm looking at the answers of your online poll. So we asked you to rate on a scale of 1 to 5, with the rating of 5 as the highest. How excited are you to measure or to use formative assessment tools? So our average rating is at 4.74. So majority of you answered 5. So that means that a lot of you are really excited to apply formative online assessments to your learning instructions. There are some of you who answered 4. Maybe because there's still a lot more in store for you towards the end of this discussion. No? So yeah, I'm happy to see that a lot of you are really excited to use formative assessment tools online. Okay. So if you notice, I conducted the poll in the middle of our discussion about the examples of formative online assessments. So this is to ensure that everyone is still focused in our discussion. And of course, we want to see how you're taking in the topic. So a simple question such as how excited are you to use the online assessment tools already gives you a signal that the learners are absorbing the topic. So that's one way, or a simple way to measure the effectivity of your current instruction, and at the same time engage your students and your learners. Okay. So next one, we have game type activities. So you can turn a series of test questions into a game. So of course, game type activities are considered fun and not necessarily tests. And this is a good indicator of the true skills and knowledge of your learners. So an example of this is to use Kahoot to conduct the game for the students. So earlier in our picture analysis activity, we showed a logo of Kahoot. And as promised, we'd like to share with you some guide on how to create a game via Kahoot. So next slide, please. All right, so for you to create a Kahoot or a game using Kahoot, you just need to log in to kahoot.com and then click create Kahoot. So of course you have to ensure that you have your account, you create your Kahoot account. So if you have your credentials already, use it to sign up and log in to the website. Okay. So after clicking create Kahoot, it will bring you to another screen with which you'll have an option to click the create button for your new Kahoot. Okay. After that, you can move to the next step. Just enter the title, your desired title for your game, and then you can select your preferred type of question. So there will be a list of type of questions provided. You can choose a variety of options like quizzes, true or false, open-ended, word cloud, etc. So it depends on your preference. Okay, so once you you have chosen the type of question, you can start typing your questions in the box provided. So you'll see in the screen, no, there's a big box in the middle wherein you can start typing your questions. So it depends on you on how long you want to take or how many questions you'd like to give your students. So once you're finished with it, click done. Okay. All right, so that's it. Once done, you may already test your Kahoot before applying it to your online class, or you can start playing the game already. So they'll give you options on that one. All right, so that's about it for Kahoot or game type activities. Next up, we have forum posts. So forum posts are online discussion boards organized around a topic. So it can be used if you want learners to interact, communicate with each other, and collaborate as part of the learning process. So while you're doing this, at the same time, you're able to check their comprehension about the topic. So an example of it is to present a video and ask your learners to share their key takeaways about the topic. So for you to experience how to conduct forum posts using online learning, we'll be showing you a video. But before that, I want to give a tip, no, that if you want to share a video to your learners, the ideal length of videos is less than 6 minutes. So this is based on an article from panopta.com on how long training videos should be. Okay, so moving on, we would like to present the video. While watching the video, or after watching the video, please comment your key takeaway on the topic in 1 to 2 sentences. So we'll give you time to enter your key takeaways in the chat box. So I think Sir Neil is starting to access the video. This video is all about assessments under the new normal. So we got it from the YouTube channel, Learning with Dr. Lebs. So some of you might be familiar with him.
Have you ever wondered how assessment will change under the new normal? Let's find out together in this video. Before we go to that, don't forget to subscribe and share this video to your friends. This video comes with a free PowerPoint presentation that you can share with your friends, to your parents, and to your school. Just subscribe and fill in the link found in the video description of the video. In the new normal, the usual approach in assessment will drastically change. The usual no cheating, cover your notes, and cover your answers will not apply anymore. So how will assessment change under the new normal? These are the 5 major changes we will see in the world of assessment soon under the new normal. Number 1, it's hard to know whether they will cheat or not. Under the new normal, it will be very hard for teachers to ensure that learners don't cheat during summative examinations. Even the worksheets that they have to complete could easily be filled out by their parents or anyone they could ask help from. Thus, it is very important for teachers to partner closely with the parents and make them understand that it will be a great loss for learners if they miss the opportunity to learn through their modules. Number 2, there will be high need for more authentic assessment. Authentic assessment is defined as tasks that students perform in order to demonstrate a skill or a competency. The new normal allows students to access free information from people through the internet. This makes knowledge freely available. This in turn shifts the focus to more authentic ways of solving real problems found at home or even in the community. Number 3, rubrics will become more important. Since there will be a high demand for authentic assessment, rubrics and objective ways to grade learners through rubrics will become more important. Rubrics should take into consideration a wide array of variation in the output, considering that in this new normal, we need to take into consideration the level of equity of those who can afford having internet at home and those who cannot. Number 4, feedback will become very essential for learners to learn. Under this new normal, there is a great distance between the learners and the teachers compared to the face-to-face interaction before. The huge gap may lead learners to easily go astray from the task and from finishing the module. Thus, it is essential for learners to intrinsically be motivated. However, in reality, this is very hard to achieve. Now more than ever, teachers should become designers of learning, not just sources of information, to ensure that we capture students' interest despite the current setting. Number 5, reward systems will be redefined. Considering the current scenario, it is expected that new guidelines for the current reward system will be redefined. Under DepEd Order 36 Series 2016, guidelines in the reward system were given. However, considering our current scenario, changes in the reward system is expected. It is expected that the new reward system will help us with our current struggles in implementing the assessment system under the new normal. What do you think of these challenges and big changes under the new normal? Comment your thoughts regarding this topic in the comment section. Be prepared for the new normal. Equip yourself with the knowledge and the skills.
All right. Okay, so now that we finished the video, we'll give you a minute to enter your key takeaways in the chat box. I'm seeing some takeaways already. Thank you so much for answering that.
30 seconds to go.
Okay.
5 seconds. Time's up.
Okay, thank you, Sir Leo. So I'm seeing a lot of comments in the chat box. So I think to generalize it, most of you answered the importance of providing feedback and importance of the rewards system and how to impose it. So actually, I've also seen comments on about measuring if or being it hard to know if the students will cheat or not. We'll talk about that in the next topics. So there. All right, thank you so much for your comments. Keep it coming if you still want to share your thoughts. If you want to comment on the takeaways of your co-attendees, please feel free to do so. So that's one way. It's actually a form of collaborative assessment because you enable your students or your learners to see their comments and their takeaways, and then it's open for them to also comment on the comments of everyone, of the others. All right. So moving on, we have the last example, which is experiments and activities. So of course we have different subjects that would allow that would require experiments and activities. So experiments and activities allows your learners to have a hands-on experience on a particular topic. So an example of it is to provide a step-by-step guide in conducting a science experiment and ask your students to submit a photo while doing the experiment. So the next slide shows how an example of how this can be provided to your students. We took an inspiration from a do-it-yourself science project from Science Illustrated. And this one is from scienceillustrated.au. So there's an instruction to follow the images, the instructions in the image provided. And then to ask someone was to ensure that the students are experiencing the experiment and activity. There's an instruction to ask someone from their family members to take a photo of them while conducting the experiment. So you can ask them to actually send the pictures together with the output of their experiment or their activities. So usually the output could be through a form of an article or to a form of a reflection paper that they will submit to you. So there. Okay, so actually that's the end of our discussion on formative assessments. So before we move further, we'd like you to have an experience on how experiments and activities can be done. So while you're watching this session on measuring learning outcomes, we want you to take a selfie and post it in Facebook na lang because I think we cannot post pictures here in the comment section. So using your Facebook accounts, please post your selfie while while watching the measuring learning outcomes session for today, and use the hashtag Heroes2021. So we expect to see your photos in Facebook when we access the hashtag Heroes2021. Right? We'll give you a minute to do it.
Last 10 seconds.
10 seconds more. We hope to see your pictures in Facebook as we access Heroes 2021. Hashtag
Time's
Heroes
up.
2021. All right, time's up. Okay. Right. So, yun. So that's one way for you to experience experiments and activities like that. So it's actually one way to measure avoiding cheating as well. But we'll talk about that as we move to our next sessions. All right. So that's the end of our discussion on formative assessments. We'd like you to take the post-assessment before we move to the question and answer portion. So showing in your screen right now is another QR code and another link. No? So we'll post the link in the comment section again or in the chat box so you can easily access it. We'll give you a minute again to take the post-assessment. We still have time, Sir Leo.
10 seconds.
10 seconds.
Time's up.
Alright, time's up. Okay, so let's now take a look at the results of your post-assessment. So if you notice, the questions are identical to the pre-assessment. So I'm looking at the results now and I see improvements in the scores. So majority of you already got the correctly are items number 2 and items number 3. So that actually just shows how you can conduct online quizzes before and after the class or after the lesson. So this kind of post-assessment actually gives the facilitator an overview of how the students has progressed in terms of their understanding on the topic. All right. So thank you again for participating in our last activity. Now, we would like to move on to the question and answer because we still have a few minutes left. So we're opening the floor for questions. If you have questions, you can type it in the Q&A button or in the chat box. We still have around 5 minutes to do the question and answer. Okay, so while waiting for some questions, I'm looking at the chat box and looking at your comments. No? So yeah, earlier I saw someone would like to participate in the activity. However, may ano din siya, ongoing meeting from another laptop. So sayang, but I hope you're able to at least grasp the framework of how we can conduct formative assessments online. Right. I'm also seeing a comment here on okay, pag ganito ginawa natin sa students, matataranta din sila. That's what I felt today, the fact na dalawa pa ang gamit kong gadget. What about our students? They only have one gadget. That kaya sana we have to take into consideration. Okay, so this is from Miss Eufronia Francisco. Thank you, ma'am, for the comment. Actually, ma'am, this is a good comment from you. If you noticed earlier, I asked with the activities, I asked you if we have enough time for you to accomplish the activity. Kasi we usually, we set the activities to 1 minute. So that's actually one way of measuring formative assessments or of getting feedback from your students. If we are able to get their comments, we can actually adjust along the way. So although earlier what we saw is that the participants are okay with the 1 minute. That's why we did not adjust it anymore to a longer time frame. But you're free to do so if ever you're gonna apply it in your online classes. Okay. All right. Okay, so there's another question from Mr. Rustico Azania. How is the phases of formative assessment done in a pure modular distance learning? Okay. Actually, sir, for this one, what we are presenting right now is doing formative assessments in an online class. So the samples that we've mentioned earlier are more applicable for an online class, but if it's done in a pure modular distance learning, maybe we can take a look further into that. We can maybe collate some examples and then we'll get back to you through our partners from THEMS. Okay. So we can reach out to you to let you know about that. But thank you so much, sir, for that question. Okay. All right. So, all right. Okay, I think we will still have time. We can still accommodate more questions. Still have around 3 more minutes.
Hi, Miss Marie.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I saw a question before about the recording of the session. Parang busy yata si Sir kanina, so he cannot focus on the session. So the recording of this session will be uploaded in the Heroes website. So if they enrolled in the Union, if they enrolled under the Union Bank and City Savings Bank course, makikita nila yung recording of this session sa ilalim. So you can watch it anytime po if you want to. And it's also a good way for them to revisit the other sessions, yung mga past sessions po natin.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Miss Lee. Yeah. So yeah, you can still access the videos, okay, in the Heroes 2021 website. All right. Yes, Miss Lay, thank you for your comment. No, practice lang po so you'll be more comfortable with technology. Yes. Actually, for us to be able to come up with this instruction material for today, we also have to practice and ensure. So my group mates and I did a trial and error on our session for today, especially with the activity. So each one of us was able to also try it out and see if it's something that will be applicable for today's learning instruction. So ano lang talaga, we have to do a lot of research and practice so that we can grasp the ins and outs of online learning. Okay. Yes, there's also a question, no, if she can make a video less than 6 minutes. Actually, ma'am, that's the ideal time coming from the research material from panopto.com, because it will allow you to engage your students. Kasi pag mas mahaba na yung video, it will be dragging for the students already. Okay. So for those who are, parang yung iba kasi may mga technical problems earlier, no? So hindi nila na-view fully yung yung video or the recording earlier. So you can still access it as mentioned by Miss Lee in the Heroes 2021 website. So we'll ensure we will not close the the activities so that you can still access it even if you access it after this learning session. Para Alright. Okay, so I think that's all. That's all for today. No, we don't have, we're running out of time already. Thank you so much everyone for allowing us to share with you our knowledge about the topic. That's the end of our learning session for today. We hope you had a good time, and more importantly, we hope that you gain something to apply as you teach in the new normal. So on behalf of my teammates, Sir Neil, Sir Efren, Sir Leo, this is Arlene. I am your speaker for today. Thank you so much for allowing us to impart our knowledge to each one of you. So we'll see you again on Friday, September 25 for the discussion on summative assessments. So that's it for today. Thank you so much and we hope you have a good day ahead. Bye everyone. Thank you.
Bye.